Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Wave Media. Welcome to Rankin' on Bass, an offhand joke that became a long-running podcast. I'm your host, Mike White, and knock, knock, Chris.
Who's there?
Chris Stachiw.
Chris Stachiw who?
Chris Stachiw, you.
Hey, you guys like Columbus? I heard you guys like Columbus, so I'm going to do a whole flip. It's Columbus, and it's funny, and the 70s are here, folks. We're here. It's the 70s, and the comedy it's mad.
Also here, also busting a gut, tickling your funny bone, and touching you in all the bad places is Mr. Richard Hatem.
The devil made me buy this dress. That's my Flip Wilson impression.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
I want to hear your W.C. Fields, though. That's the...
Oh, we'll get there.
Fields.
We'll get there.
I can't really do it.
All things being... Yeah. On this podcast, we discuss the works of Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, specifically their stop motion and animated work. Really, we covered the live action too, but we're back in animated territory. We're back with our good friends over at Mushi Production. This is a special that ran before the Oscar ceremony way back in 1970. And they were talking about this becoming a series with a 13-episode order, but it just was a pilot. This is a failed pilot, ladies and gentlemen. It's like an animated laugh-in, I would say, is probably the best way to put this, though we're celebrating those mad, and they probably spent money on this theme song, thinking that this was going to be a show, because the theme song takes up quite a few minutes here. Our good friend Maury Laws writing that, and this is basically, it's vignettes. It's all animated, and it's vignettes of classic, quote unquote, comedians. Some more classic than others, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, I was way into comedy, had a lot of comedy albums, really wanted to know about all these comedians. So this was a little bit of a nostalgia fest for me in some respect, but I'm curious to hear what you guys thought of it, especially you, Chris, because you are the youngest of the group.
Take my wife, please. Take my wife. That's my entry point here. And as we all know, Henny Youngman plays himself in Goodfellas. So that's all I could think of. It's not that I don't know these comedians, but this might be the first thing we've watched where to be of a certain age and watch this benefits you more than another age, because
right.
This does not have the timeless nature that most of the Rankin and Bass stuff does, to the point where I feel like you put this on for anybody who's maybe my age or a little younger, and they might not know anybody. And They might also look at this and go, why are you wasting my time? I didn't feel that way. I think it's fine. Like you said, it's pretty much just laughing, but animated. So, I mean, again, novel concept, but it's fine. Again, I know who these people are only because I spend a lot of my time watching stuff, go figure. So I know who the Smothers Brothers are, and W.C. Fields and Henny Youngman and Phyllis Diller and Jack Benny and George Burns. Like, I know who those people are, but I don't know them the same way y'all do. So I've never seen like a W.C. Fields movie. So like there are just some things here that I don't have a frame of reference for in the moment. I have it much, much longer after the fact. So it's like you said, being the youngest one here, I'm kind of the litmus test for if this is still entertaining, maybe you could say. And I still found it entertaining, but I don't know if anybody younger than me really would. Like, I think it would fall flat on its face, frankly.
Well, this hits at a weird time. It's 1970. Now, the fact that it's called the Mad, Mad, Mad Comedians made me think, oh, well, it must have been the same year that It's a Mad, 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 Mad World came out, which was a movie that featured just a giant grab bag of people who were known for comedy from all different rooms of the comedy mansion. But then I looked it up, and that movie came out in 1963.
Right. Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, so now I'm still trying to figure out why this was a good idea. And then I'm like, well, late 60s, early 70s was a time of sort of a renaissance for some old time comedians. Marx Brothers specifically in the mid 70s, Groucho, who was still alive, Chico and Harpo were not. Chico and Harpo were not.
And what about Zeppo?
Zeppo was still alive.
Okay.
But was okay. And I can tell you're joking, because why else would you bring up Zeppo?
I always think of that thing from Cheers when Lilith is talking to Frasier and she's like, oh, I always love Zeppo. I just love the way he just stands there. It's so funny.
Right. Yeah. He was in like the first 5 of the movies that were done at Paramount, and then he dropped out when they went to MGM. But
yeah. And no offense, I love Zeppo, by the way. Like, I think he's got some really good lines, especially in Duck Soup. I think he was a very needed character, especially because you had the 3 lunatics, and then you had him as almost a straight man, but also kind of as funny as his brothers sometimes. But he played an interesting part in that group.
Well, he didn't have a visual handle in the way the others did. So there was no accent. There was no gimmicks to him. So he was definitely on the side of the Marx Brothers. It's like, you almost felt like, these are my 3 crazy uncles, and I'm Steve Guttenberg, and I'm bringing them in, you know? And it's like, okay, so they're all the crazy ones, but you're kind of the young, good-looking one who vouches for them and thinks they're awesome. And so that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel Zeppo was best represented in the Marx Brothers. But anyway, in the early 70s through the mid 70s, in fact, up until his death in 1977, Groucho had a resurgence in popularity. College campuses across America, he and then his early films from the 30s and 40s were seen as they were sort of taken on as the sort of anti-establishment, almost, mascots of the hippies and the kids against the war in Vietnam. And he was also, I mean, he spoke out, he thought Nixon was terrible. And so there were a lot of people who were discovering their anarchic sense of humor in their movies and then realizing Groucho was still alive, and they would go to UCLA and he would introduce animal crackers, which hadn't been seen for years. But anyway, all of which is to say that we got to a point in the 70s where a lot of comedy was looking backward. Now, this special did something interesting, which was it had the old guys, but it had some new guys. It had Flip Wilson and it had the Smothers Brothers. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, we're hip. We've got, and Flip Wilson was, at that peak in a way, or was about to be at the peak of his popularity. So they they tried to appeal to everyone here.
Yeah, I found this an interesting mix as well. I'm sure that the Smothers Brothers were very funny, but I have yet to see funny Smothers Brothers. Like, they just always annoy me a little bit. Like, I think that the best thing I see the Smothers Brothers, or I remember them for, is the whole Yo-Yo Man character that they would do, but just like that bickering and all that kind of stuff. And I did appreciate that they were very anti-war, that they were vocal about those things.
Right.
And yeah, it is this weird mix of old and new. I mean, I almost wish that they had one more of a newer comedian inside of here as well. Like, of course, they're probably not going to get like a George Carlin or somebody, or Richard Pryor, but somebody else of this kind of more, the Smothers Brothers were safe for television. Flip Wilson was very safe for television. Yeah. I really enjoyed the Flip Wilson animated sequence, and I kind of wish I could see his entire album done this way. I used to really dig on Flip Wilson. I had hit his records. I had, who would have been a good choice, and now it's going to sound horrible when I say it, but who would have been really good? Fucking Bill Cosby. He would have been great in this.
You're totally correct. And of the sequences, I thought the Flip Wilson was the most successful, and it was also the first. He was very audience friendly. Mm-hmm. He was big among Black audiences. He was big for white audiences. And in the same way that Bill Cosby was, and even his style, you can see, is very, like, it's sort of, it kind of bumps up against racial issues, but mm-hmm. gently and in a kind, funny way, not in a way that would have been interpreted by white audiences as accusatory or aggressive. There was a little bit, because and it's very Bill Cosby. Oh, I'm telling a story about Columbus, and he starts telling this goofy story. But when Columbus discovers America, what if, what if there's some people here who don't want to be discovered?
Right.
I'm trying to do Flip Wilson doing Geraldine, which was his alter ego, this female character he would do. He would show up in a dress and a wig, and it was a whole character. It was kind of like Tyler Perry doing Medea, right?
Martin Lawrence with his female characters. I can't remember what was the character from the Martin Lawrence show? Was it like LaWanda or something like that?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Right.
Chris, do you know? Chris is staring at us like we're incoherent old men in a barber shop.
I am just listening to the conversation because at the moment the Flip Wilson thing, I think, is the best thing in the entire thing. Like, mm-hmm. to your point, Mike, like, why not just give him fucking half an hour? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
What did they see outside? I mean, and again, like, the other thing, like, here's the thing. All of the things that work here are them recreating something that already works. It's not like the Flip Wilson thing is, original for this. I don't know. Most of the things aren't original. No. They're redoing something from somewhere else. So the Flip Wilson thing is just them pulling it off the record album and just redoing it. So,
it's the animation and obviously, and there's jokes within the animation about, the workers going on strike. And there's plenty of visual gags. It makes more sense than I thought it would. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know what this is going to be. And when it started, I'm like, oh, I don't think this is a great idea. But then once it got going, I was like, oh no, I kind of get this. And because his story, he's sort of narrating and then we're seeing the visuals. Mm-hmm. So it actually had an advantage, I think, because it was asking the audience to imagine things, and then it was using that as a jumping off point for the animation rather than simply animating two comedians talking to each other.
Right. Like the George Burns and Jack Benny thing.
Well, and it is
Right.
a certain kind of comedian is what Flip Wilson is, right? Like there are certain comedians that tell stories and do these kind of like, it's essentially like, I don't know, like they're storytelling through a device that's, you know, placing themselves in the shoes of the character and narrating the story. Certain comedians do that, but best I could tell, a lot of the comedians in this don't. And so I don't know, like they were trying to serve everybody. I get it, but certain comedians types of humor don't work in this setting. I mean, there's a reason they have Henny Youngman show up in like such minor parts, but they advertise that he's in it. And it's like him doing one-liners. Like they don't have Dangerfield in this either, but that's because his comedy style would not work in this. I mean, he's a little more abrasive than I think they would have liked, but Don Rickles as well could have been here. Again, that kind of comedy is not going to work in an animated setting unless you have fake hecklers, which I guess they could have done. They do have those static shots of the audience where there's like a weird looking Dean Martin and the Beatles. I mean, they're strange looking.
Weird. That was disturbing.
Yeah. And then that moment in the Flip Wilson thing where Popeye shows up in the audience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a sailor. They were talking about sailors, so
they were, and he was enjoying it. He thought that was very funny stuff.
But I would have preferred more of Flip Wilson's style of comedy, like you said, a Bill Cosby type thing where he's telling a story that can be animated, like the My Brother Russell stuff. Like that's a comedy goldmine, right?
2 years later, Fat Albert.
True.
Right.
Where it was Bill Cosby and his stories of his childhood were being animated. I mean, that's one way to look at what, you know, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids was.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, it totally was. Yeah. Like that. I knew about Russell and stuff from the albums before I knew it from the cartoon.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know who got the idea from who, but that, like we said, the Flip Wilson stuff worked. Plus, Flip Wilson was kind of great, and he's not someone you hear about a lot anymore.
No, which is a shame.
Yeah, you hear a lot about Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and that makes sense. It's like that's fine, but Flip Wilson was really funny, and he was someone that families could watch. And like my entire family would watch the Flip Wilson show together, and it wasn't like, well, maybe we should get the kids out of the room for certain things. It was like, no, and it was a very popular show. So that one worked really well. I've seen more of the Smothers Brothers, like their actual show, and I've liked them, but I never loved them. I remember, so it was in the year of our Lord 2006. Susan and I went to San Francisco for a weekend, and we were walking around, and we ducked into the Hyatt Regency to go grab a drink or, use the bathroom or something. We were at the Hyatt Regency Hotel down at the Embarcadero, and we were looking for the bar, looking for something. Suddenly we were on that sort of mezzanine level where they have all the big conference rooms, and it was clear that there was a big conference going on. Some, company was having a big thing. And what they were having it was like the final night of the convention, and the Smothers Brothers were performing at the National Association of Orthopedic Surgeons. And it blew my mind, because I'm like, it's 2006. In 1966, they were also performing in San Francisco, as anti-war, pro-hippie, anti-establishment, on the cusp of becoming famous TV stars. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if they ever could have imagined that 40 years later, they were going to be right back in San Francisco playing, the National Association of Orthopedic Surgeons. So I mentioned this to someone, and they're like, oh, those guys make bank, because all these giant associations are always having these retreats and these conferences, and they have a budget of like $150,000 to just throw at entertainment. These are giant associations and corporations and stuff. And it's like, those guys are making more money than they've ever made in their lives doing these things. And I was like, you know what, then God bless them.
Yeah.
They're touring this year, guys. They're like in their mid 80s.
Are they really?
Yes, they really are.
You're looking at something. What's the schedule? What does it say?
I don't know the schedule. I just know that they announced that they were touring.
Wow.
which is
crazy.
fucking wild. Like, good for them. Like, good for them. Good that they're still doing it. Great.
Yeah.
Hey, I think all these guys do it. I think friggin' Jay Leno and Seinfeld and all those guys. It's like, you're gonna pay me, 80, 100 grand to show up in Cleveland and talk to 400 dentists. Done.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, and I also don't know if after maybe 5 years from now, if the Smothers Brothers, if they can tour, if people would show up. Like, at some point though there will not be a name notoriety for the Smothers Brothers either.
It's the difference between touring and doing the conference circuit, because one, you don't need people. It's like they're already there. They're all there. They're all eating, the chicken and the steamed vegetables, and it's like, hey, guess what, folks? Now a comedian from 40 years ago, who you probably remember, going to be a generous audience. They're all going to be drunk. They're all going to be in a good mood. And no one's ever going to judge you. You're going to do that show. No one on earth is going to know you did that show. You could be doing those shows to, get ready for your next big actual concert tour or appearance on the Tonight Show or whatever is the thing. What a great thing for comedians to be able to do. But anyway, Smothers Brothers were here. They were hugely popular at this moment. And so that was the concession to modern guys. Then there was still the respect and the love for the Jack Benny and the George Burns and even the Marx Brothers, who show up doing literally a routine that they were doing in vaudeville, in like fucking 1918.
Answer your question from before. The Smothers Brothers end their tour next week in Florida.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's fucking, and they had like 7 touring dates too, from East to West Coast. So good for them, frankly.
Yeah.
Good for them. But yeah, it does feel like the concession to the cool kids, because it's left at the end, like they're building up to, they keep building up to it throughout the thing. Like, the Smothers Brothers, they're coming. Like,
they open and close with the Smothers Brothers. The Smothers Brothers are there at the beginning, and they do that quick little thing where Tommy gets eaten by a monster.
the audio was cutting out on mine.
It was cutting out on one version, and then I watched it on my Plex, and it was fine.
I watched it on YouTube and it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was weird.
There is a version on YouTube. You can find it. I mean, that's the thing about this. At least this is easy to find. Like, some of the things we've done for this show. I mean, you mentioned the whole, like, oh, it's a long-standing joke and we cover the animated stuff. But, like, this is not something that anybody would know as Rankin and Bass.
No.
Period. Like,
no.
You know, I mean, Richard always jokes about, we keep doing the show and it seems like we're dragging things up from the deep. And in a lot of ways we are, because like this never went anywhere, but I could see why they wanted it to, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't, I don't know what that would have looked like. Would 13 episodes of this have just been 13 of these?
I think they probably would have just started mining more comedians and stuff. And, the one comedian that I thought of while we were talking was Bob Newhart. I think he would have been a really good one for this.
That's brilliant. You're absolutely right.
Had this been pre-1963, I think Vaughn Meader would have been a really good one. And of course, they're not going to get Lenny Bruce unless it's early Lenny Bruce, but...
Well, no George Carlin either. I mean,
no George Carlin, no Red Fox.
Right. Yeah. The people that I wanted to see are not here because you can't say the N word or the F word on ABC.
But I bet there was enough. I bet there was enough Red Fox material extant that could be adapted. But I think you're right. I think it could have been current people. And then an endless pool of Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Martin and Lewis, Hope and Crosby. All those guys who were still, they were still showing up on variety shows and things. They were still popular. You could still have Jack Benny and people loved it. And he was great.
And I do want to mention Phyllis Diller is here, but the biggest affront feels like having Phyllis Diller and using her for nothing. Don't mention Phyllis Diller and then just be like, we'll cut to the animated caricature a couple times, which, by the way, Phyllis Diller is not an ugly woman, but that caricature makes her look like a literal fucking monster. I don't understand. She's the only one who looks terrible out of all of them. And she's the only female comedian because apparently there was only one funny person who was female in 1970, but fine.
Well,
but they don't give her anything to do anything. They don't give her anything to do either.
Well, they weren't going to get Rusty Warren on there, I'll tell you that. So
Phyllis Diller was still considered, well, she had a look. I mean, she did a semi-outrageous look. It's not like she was walking on stage trying to be beautiful. So the fact that she was exaggerated in animation actually makes perfect sense to me.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so that's a thing then. Okay,
yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Okay,
they weren't negging her.
She looks like a monster on purpose.
Don't forget they ended up using her as a monster. I mean, it's interesting all the ties between this and all the other Rankin Bass stuff. I'm kind of glad that we have been saving this towards the end of this because of, I'm surprised that some of the other comedians that they dealt with in other specials weren't in this. Like, why can't I remember the guy with the big nose? Jimmy Durante. I'm surprised that Jimmy Durante wasn't in this. But yeah, we had her show up in Mad Monster Party and talk about Fang and stuff. And then it's funny that, 3 years after this, you've got Mad Monsters. And we talked about that when we talked about Mad Monster Party. I think this is much more successful than Mad Monsters. This definitely had legs. I don't want to say it was my problem. I think the one thing that this really whiffed on was the W.C. Fields bit. I think that was probably the weakest of the whole thing. And that's only, and now this is no offense to Paul Frees, because Paul Frees, he pulls a lot of weight in this whole thing. He's doing a lot of voices, a lot of like sound effects. He's doing the sound of the Maxwell when it's the Benny and Burns stuff, which used to be Mel Blanc's gig. I was surprised they didn't get him back for that, but he probably was big bucks. And we know that Freeze and Rankin and Bass, they work together a ton. But the whole thing with Freeze doing his W.C. Fields impersonation, no problem. But Freeze is basically talking to himself doing a woman's voice. And that just sounded like Paul Frees having a conversation with Paul Frees. And I was just like, And just that whole thing, that whole bit, I don't think was nearly as funny as it could have been. Like, I know, Chris, you said you haven't really seen any W.C. Fields, but that guy could be fucking funny. Like the Bank Dick, that's the movie. Like, start with the Bank Dick and go from there.
You can go back and watch W.C. Fields right now, and it is fucking hysterical.
Oh God, yes.
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say, only because I am personally such a Marx Brothers guy, I was a little kind of underwhelmed by the Marx Brothers section.
Oh yeah, the Chico impersonation also wasn't good. It was more like Burgermeister Meister Burger.
Just Paul Frees. I'm glad you said it, because it was just Paul Frees. Like, it was just Paul Frees doing that like villain. Excuse
what
me,
do you want from me? Yes,
that's a pretty good.
The two parts of this that didn't work for me were the Groucho Marx and the W.C. Fields part. And what's funny is, like, for me, they didn't work because it's clear that this was funnier elsewhere, and they just couldn't figure out how to make it funny here.
Well, there was a big tradition of animating comedians. I mean, there was a cartoon about two cats that were clearly Abbott and Costello.
Oh yeah, yep, that was the Warner Brothers. Yep,
yeah. The Three Stooges had been animated.
Oh yeah. And there were characters that showed up like them. Yep. Yeah, the Beatles animated show. That was something.
I mean, it was a big deal back then to just animate the Jackson 5, animate the Osmonds, let's animate everybody. And sometimes they do the voices and they do some songs. And so it wasn't an outrageous idea. It's just now execution and, which bits work better than others.
And they would show up on things like Scooby-Doo. There were always like the guest voices on that. Like Don Knotts shows up on Scooby-Doo,
Yeah. An animated version of Don Knotts, like, I guess I'm helping out the Scooby Gang.
Right, exactly. He was perfect.
It was weird.
Yeah.
That was very weird. The Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, yeah. For me, it's sad because this special peaks at Flip Wilson and then goes downhill after that. Because, like, I was very excited. So, Chris, the whole thing with Jack Benny and George Burns is they are infamous skinflints. And I I was kind of unaware of them working together in stuff. And so when I saw that they were going to be paired here, I was just like, oh, this is going to be great, because neither one of these guys likes to open up their wallet at all. But then I just thought that the gag wasn't funny. This whole like back me up, and then George starts singing, and I'm just like, are you going to say like you were backing him up vocally? Like, it didn't make any sense to me, and I'm just like,
that's
I really
the gag.
wanted there to be more to this. You know,
it's so funny because it's just the same bit over and over and over again.
It evoked the feeling I think Chris probably had in watching this a lot, which is sort of like you're watching and you're kind of squinting going, am I missing something that everybody else is in on?
And they both worked in radio, so you would think they would know what works for the audio medium. You know, like that was the gag, was the Maxwell and just all those noises that Mel Blanc would make for this poor vehicle because he was so cheap he wouldn't get a new car.
Look, for all I know, one of the most famous Jack Benny, George Burns gags was "back me up," and he would sing instead of physically back him. So, like, maybe
was that what that was? Is this is a running gag? This is something I completely missed?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like there's a cultural, sort of knowledge at that time, which really did exist because entertainment was not as diversified. It was not as diverse. So you had 3 networks, you had the big movie releases. Everyone knew everything. Everyone knew who Groucho was. Everybody knew who W.C. Fields was. And everyone knew who Flip Wilson was. You just knew. So they may have been playing to certain sort of like, oh, that's their classic gag. And I'm just not familiar with it or an aspect of their personality. So I don't know. The Marx Brothers one seemed a little confusing and confused. It's like, well, it's Groucho, but he's playing Napoleon. Like, if you didn't know who those characters were, I don't think this was a great introduction. Let me put it that way.
It was not. It really wasn't. Because I've never seen a Groucho Marx anything.
Yeah, you can go back and you should watch their Paramount films, primarily Horse Feathers or Duck Soup, and you'll have a great time.
Yeah.
And those movies are about 68 minutes long, so you're not going to waste a whole day.
I mean, Duck Soup is, to me, that's hands down their classic. But there's the one where it's the stolen painting is the one for me that I really like.
Animal Crackers.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I love that. Yeah, Chris, you will be a much happier person if you get some Marx Brothers in your lives, because they have just this amazing way of performing, but just this chemistry between the brothers and just this whole thing, like, because they don't really ever play brothers. They play, if anything, they hate each other in these movies. And there's a lot of times where it's Groucho is like a political figure or something, and then you've got Chico and Harpo as basically like 2 anarchists or source of anarchy, just coming in and destroying whatever it is. And that happens in multiple of these. And you've got like Chico is the fast talker. He has the accent. He doesn't understand things. I mean, the whole like cross-examination of Chico in Duck Soup is fucking fantastic. Harpo, this amazing mime who's got this wonderful talent for the harp, and then you got Chico who can play piano. You got Groucho that sings, and then you got fucking Zeppo who's like this great straight man who occasionally gets in these zingers, and all of it just works together so well. And they would workshop all of their acts like in vaudeville, and so a lot of the movies are based on these acts that they had done and trotted out, and just were able to test it and get the timing so right that it's so good.
I'll have to watch them then. Yeah, that's a pretty big blind spot. Though I will say Richard does have Groucho Marx energy sometimes. So, like Richard reaches back for his hat and cane to dance around with, or his black shoe polish to give himself a Groucho Marx mustache. So
I have a Groucho Marx book in my bag as we speak.
See?
Yeah. Mike, do you listen to the Marx Brothers Council, the podcast?
No, I do not. I probably should.
Oh, it's really fun. It's really fun. It's Matthew Conium and Noah Diamond and a couple other guys, and they're Marx Brothers experts, and they love them, and they love joking around, and they just talk about different aspects of the movie and of the various movies, and they have interviews and stuff. It's really fun. Anyway.
And you're right. This was a great time for this revival of the Marx Brothers, and especially Groucho, because I know he had done The Story of Mankind back in 57, but around like 68, 69, there was Skidoo, that really awful Otto Preminger film that I love. And he was doing stuff on Broadway. He was showing up a lot on DeCavett. So this was this great time of this Groucho resurgence. And then I know like so many of his, like the younger actors, like when you look at Groucho's funeral, it's just like freaking like Elliot Gould, like all these guys, like
Sally Kellerman, Bud Cort. It's all those people who were just like hanging out at his house.
Exactly. Yeah. It was wild. It was wild. But yeah, I wish that segment would have been better. Like I said, it was kind of weak sauce towards the end with this. And I really wish that these older ones had like a little bit more to it, because I know that they can do it. And I know that there are bits out there that really would work well if they spent the time and did the animation like they did that Flip Wilson one. It's almost like they took the Flip Wilson was like one group of animators, and then they said, okay, and the rest of you guys, you get this stuff. Because even the animation style in the Benny and Burns stuff, it just wasn't as there as some of the other things. Like the cop looks really rough, and like Burns and Benny, they look pretty good, but it's very simplified animation.
It's very simple, and it's strange because their whole routine was they were riding in a car, so it's not outrageous, sort of like, oh my God, they're in outer space or something. Now you take the Marx Brothers, who were very visual. I mean, even their personas were visually arresting and very carefully designed. And then to animate them, it almost seems like you're actually taking a step backward. It's like, well, I'd rather just see the guys doing their visual gags. The animation isn't really adding anything. It's diminishing it a little bit. The same thing whenever I see the Three Stooges animated. I'm like, well, but I'd rather just watch their shorts where Curly is falling out a window and Moe, is smashing someone in the head with a porcelain vase, and they're all, in a car that's collapsing as they drive it. It's like they were very visual to begin with. Animation doesn't take it to the next level.
They're already doing cartoon slapstick stuff. Like, why? Yeah, I mean, again, for me as someone who has very little knowledge about the Marx Brothers, it was confusing what was going on, but also I felt the same thing. It's like, what is the point of animating this? Like, I was under the impression that this was slapstick. Like, that's live action cartoons as it is. Like,
But you bring up a good point about Phyllis Diller. I've been just sort of ruminating on that. It's like there really weren't, like a little later there was Joan Rivers, Minnie Pearl was in the mix. Not a ton of female stand-ups. Now you could have done Lucille Ball, you could have done some animated I Love Lucy sort of thing, which could have been very funny if you could get the licensing. That would have been great. I don't know. I mean, in a weird way, the possibilities are endless, especially then, because there was a lot of new comedy and a lot of old comedy, and everyone was aware of all of it. So it would have been interesting if there had been 13 more of these. I don't know. I would have been, depending on who was being animated, I would have been curious to watch.
Well, and what's interesting is that it gets such high ratings that I don't know why it died on the vine the way that it did. Because this wasn't a failure for Rankin and Bass by any stretch of the imagination. So,
well, but it was a fake success because it was right before the Oscars. That's like putting on a show after the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, it's going to have inflated ratings for that airing, but who knows after that?
Yeah, I think that there are more female comedians that we're just not remembering. Like, I think, I mentioned Rusty Warren earlier, but there's like Moms Mabley is happening, who I never really found that funny. Like Bill Barth was one of them. Even freaking Elaine Boosler, her career goes all the way back to like at least 77, if not before. So I think there are probably more that we than we remember. And if anything, I almost said before, like, mark my words, there's going to be a Flip Wilson biopic in the next 5 years, and there's going to be this big resurgence or something. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a documentary about female stand-up comedians that's either out there that I don't know about or that is coming, because it's one of those things where, like there was a great documentary on Phyllis Diller a few years ago. And I think that there needs to be more like appreciation of what was happening. I mean, Mrs. Maisel, it's kind of a funny show sometimes, not the best show in the world. I enjoy it. I chuckle at it. I don't laugh out loud, but I'm kind of hoping like, like once Miss Maisel's off the air after this season, hey, let's take a look at other female stand-up comedians and what they were doing.
Listen, it's still tough. It is, the world of stand-up comedy, even today, is not welcoming to women.
Oh, no.
In fact, it's getting worse. I know a friend of mine is a young woman doing stand-up before COVID, even a little bit since. And it just gets worse and worse. The comedy scene is famously misogynist. And that's like a little section within a larger entertainment landscape riddled with misogyny. But especially stand up, it's just like,
I mean, you could say that about podcasting though, right? Like, I feel like you could say that about the entertainment industry in general is not male centric, maybe not misogynistic, but like, because they always say, how many other white dudes need another podcast? Like, that's a thing. Like, that's
true.
That's a thing. Like, and it's, I think it's less the white part and more the dude part. Like,
yeah,
I'm with you. Like, look, I'm not even I'll be perfectly honest here. I fucking don't like stand-up comedy for the most part. It's not.
Whoa. Hey,
it's not something. That's not something that I am a huge fan of. There are comedians that I like that I will watch, but it is not something where I'm putting it on. I'm going out of my way to watch it. Because it's, I don't know, like for me, it's not something that animates me. I get why people like it. I've never been to a live comedy show. It's not something I have any interest in ever really going to, but I can't place my finger on why. That's the issue. So I don't know what the deal is, but it's never like, I like certain people, Carlin, Bill Hicks, certain people I like, but for the most part, I don't even care about stand-up. So I'm a terrible judge of a lot of this to begin with. So,
well, I would say the difference is like podcasting, you do it, you put it out there, you never see your audience. So in other words, it's very egalitarian. Anyone can do it. Any race, any sex, any gender, any orientation, you can do it and put your voice out there and hopefully find an audience. Stand up, you have to be at a location in front of an audience, and there's going to be 8 people going out on stage, and how many are men and how many are women, and how's that one woman going to get treated, and who's going to follow her and who's going to bring her out, and after the show, who's hanging out with her. It's like it's a boys club. It really is. It always has been, unfortunately. And for a woman to survive that and really thrive just on that level takes, doing that at all takes an extraordinary level of sort of grit and intestinal fortitude. Now to do it as a woman, or a woman of color, now you're really talking, you're not going to, club owners, other comedians, not going to be a lot of open arms for you. And then you go out on stage and people are like, well, who's this? Skepticism there too. It's tough. It's tough, but even tougher for them. So
there's so much hate still thrown at different female comedians. It's just crazy. And like sometimes it's, they might rub you the wrong way, like an Amy Schumer. Like sometimes I think she's hilarious, and other times I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not that funny. Like, especially it's like, oh, you're saying dirty words. That's just not inherently funny. You need to actually like create a joke around there.
Oh, so women can't just say dirty words. That's not okay with it. Wow.
Yeah. Well, and who was the other one?
Chris Rock is just motherfucker this and motherfucker that, but I suppose that's okay with you, Mike White.
Do I think that Chris Rock is that funny? Sometimes, but I watched that latest special. I didn't laugh that much. I'm sorry. What I like when it comes to stand-up comedy, and I know I'm kind of switching subjects, but going to Chris's point, I enjoy the craft and watching the craft and seeing a set and hearing, for me, it's the moments between the jokes are the most important moments. How you go from one joke to another and how you build on a joke and just keep adding a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then you let it die down, and then you bring it back later on. I think right now, like what's that guy's name? John
Mulaney?
John Mulaney?
Who's on John Mulaney. I think Mulaney does a really good job when it comes to crafting jokes and then doing callbacks. I really love a good callback, but for me, like, you know, watching things like Last Comic Standing, which I think was unfairly canceled. The execs at NBC seem to hate that show because they just did everything they could to kill it. But there were some great comedians that came out of that one. Alonzo Bowden was amazing. Just so many good comedians that came out of that show, including Amy Schumer. But to see them practicing and getting that, I love good stand-up that way.
I do want to mention something. You mentioned, Richard, that comedy is hard enough if you're a woman or woman of color or anything. Doesn't help that the stand-up comedy world and the audiences for stand-up comedy don't seem to give a shit about the people that do bad things either, like Louis C.K., who actively antagonized other female comedians.
Ugh.
So, yeah, like the whole boys club thing, it extends from the comedians to the audience's acceptance of it being a boys club. Because like Mike mentioned, and like you were riffing on, Richard, guys saying women aren't funny is fucking stupid. Some of the funniest people I know are women. And I always mention that the women over at Twisted and Uncorked are funnier than me. And it's true. They are. And Richard, you can attest to that. They're fucking hilarious. And it seems effortless. I'm not effortlessly funny. I don't feel like, and I don't understand that sentiment. And it's here a little bit because they only have Phyllis Diller, but I also get why if I were a woman, I wouldn't want to go and put myself into the world of male comedians, given that shit like what Louis C.K. was doing was essentially, I'll give it a stamp and a pass because he's now selling out stadiums again and nobody cares that he was just whipping his dick out and jerking off in front of women, which, by the way, any of us did that and have fun ever doing anything ever again, anywhere with anyone in any fucking capacity. But if you're Louis C.K., it doesn't matter. Like fucking bullshit. Come on.
Well, all of these subsets of the entertainment industry have their own culture and kind of their own mood or whatever. I mean, you know, stand-up comedians are very, you know, they're kind of solitary animals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to hear, like, when they talk about, oh yeah, back in the day when we would do sets at the Comedy Store, like, you know, Jay Leno and David Letterman and Robin Williams and Billy Crystal and Gilbert Gottfried and, you know, a million others. And they talk about how great everyone was. But I can't help but think that at the time, there was a lot more touchiness, you know, about who had a good set tonight, who didn't, who got on the Tonight Show before I got on the Tonight Show. People were fucking pissed when people like Freddie Prinze, who's 19 and suddenly he's on the Tonight Show and then gets his own series. There were people who were like, I'm going to literally jump off a building. And one of them did, because my career isn't going as fast as that guy's. And so it's competitive in this very unique way that like the rest of American society is going to be suspicious of the outsider. And most industries are dominated by white men. So anyone who's not a white man or a white Christian man is going to be seen with a certain level of suspicion and skepticism. And what are you trying to do joining my club? What's interesting is reading about the music industry and women's experience there. And sort of as musicians, women often say, I was welcomed, you know, to jam with all these guys. You know, if you're a go for it, you know, and I received more respect than I expected when we were playing music. Now, outside of that, all bets were off. So it's like, oh, okay. But anyway, we're going far afield of the mad comedians.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just remembered, and I don't know how I forgot, Lily Tomlin. I mean, what the hell, man? I grew up on Lily Tomlin stuff. And then
Speaking of 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Lily Tomlin just made a movie. I just talked about it on the Culture Cast with Richard's wife, 80 for Brady. It was fucking hilarious. By the way, people who say women aren't funny because it's still a thing, like, fuck you. Just fuck you. Like, I'm fucking serious with this shit. Like, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. And for the longest time, a lot of us sat by and didn't say shit about it and just listened to people pontificate their bullshit. And that's why we're here now. where like you have to be as like angry about it as I feel like I have to be angry about it. Otherwise people don't take me seriously. Like I think it's horse shit. Like women are fucking hilarious. And I think white men like myself should get out of the way. Like, I don't know. And for me, like, honestly, sketch comedy is more my jam now. And he's like Tim Robinson stuff on Netflix, Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key on Key and Peele, like Mad TV, all that stuff always resonated with me more. Even SNL always resonated with me more than stand-up did, other than like the specific people. So maybe that's what this would have been if this had continued, was more of like a sketch comedy show utilizing these comedians, which I think could have been its own weird, fun thing. This, of all the things we've talked about, feels like the biggest missed opportunity for Rankin and Bass. Like a genuine missed opportunity.
Yeah, they could have done more.
Oh, yeah.
They should have.
I totally agree. Well, and it's funny because this is the same year that Santa Claus is Coming to Town comes out. This comes out in April. Santa Claus is Coming to Town comes out a few months later. I'm not sure if that was Thanksgiving or right at Christmas. But it's like, wow, this is a banner year for Rankin and Bass.
Yeah, this was the height.
And I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. That's for sure. But I do wish that there had been more variety, I guess. I mean, again, like the things that they advertise, like Henny Youngman and Phyllis Diller, like they're just not there enough. And those were the people I was actually excited to see. I was excited to see what they would do with Henny Youngman. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Again, and I wonder, like, his like borscht belt routine just doesn't work very well in an animated format. It's one-liners. Like, you can see Henny Youngman's entire act in Goodfellas in that one scene. You can see his whole act. Take my wife, please. Like, that's his whole act, guys. Like,
oh, come on. It's not, okay, now suddenly I'm defending Henny Youngman. Oh, Chris, you've pushed me far.
I pushed him. But you know,
not his whole act.
But you know what I mean? Like his act, like, but what you said, you boiled it down to that one thing that the audience is going to know, which is the take my wife, please. And it's
he didn't do movies.
Right.
You know, he stood there, he told jokes, he walked off stage.
Right. And how does that translate in a format like this? Not very well. So they just don't represent him essentially at all. And it's kind of unfair.
Well, that's the thing, is because he would tell stories, but the stories would take 30 seconds.
Right.
You know? And then he would just do, like I was talking, the add-on joke, you know, like the whole thing, like, you know, went to the doctor and gave me 6 weeks to live. You know, I couldn't pay the bill, so he gave me another 6 weeks. And then he just like will add on to that joke after, and just keep doing that. So yeah, but I totally agree with you. Not the best for a visual mean, other than him just standing there with his violin. It's like, okay, great.
And like those are like those if this show had continued could have served as like the interstitials in like Twilight Zone 85 or Night Gallery, where it's like a quick little 10 to 15 second thing to get you on to the next thing. That's what that would have been if this had continued. But oh man.
Yeah. And I will say those Henny Youngman and Phyllis Diller ones, those were the ones that I laughed at the most, because they hit you right between the eyes. You know, like Phyllis Diller just pops up, talks about how fat Fang's mother is, and that they use her to clean out the Lincoln Tunnel. It's like, wow, that's great. You know, I laughed at that, and we move on right to a Henny Youngman joke, and then boom, we're out. We get that crazy mad comedian song again, and that psychedelic animation that they're doing with that like long-legged character kind of reminded me of the Crooked Man from the one special that we talked about, the Mother Goose special that we discussed. And I was like, okay, this guy might show up in my nightmares. He's just a silhouette in this.
Is it also surprising that there weren't any international comedians in this as well? It's all American comedians, right? Like,
wait, do they have comedy?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
No one's ever done comedy outside of the United States.
What are we going to bring in? Content floss?
Yeah.
Wow, guys, sorry, I forgot. Never mind. I'll go fuck myself and leave.
Would you please? It was 1970. Nobody wants your foreign comedian.
I know.
What are they going to do? Have a Japanese comedian and subtitle them?
Oh, wow.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. Boy.
Yeah.
Were you upset Jack Sue wasn't featured?
God, here I was complaining about women being represented. Jesus Christ. I mean, fucking the wrong tree. I barked up one tree, and I've barked up the entirely wrong tree now.
Yeah. What do you want? Bill Dana doing Jose Jimenez? You racist.
Oh, man.
Jesus Christ. I just wanted the cast of the Tiki Room to show up and do all of their hilariously outdated accents that we all forget about. Hey guys, Splash Mountain's the real problem though when we've got people doing fake Hispanic accents as birds though. Don't forget. God.
I'm groaning more because I'm remembering I was talking about how much I love that stand-up show, and this guy who is the worst. He was a Vietnamese comedian, Dat fan. He was the worst, and for whatever reason, he won his season, and I still don't understand.
Hey, not for everybody, right? Like
there was the Chinese comedian named Johnny Yoon, who was popular in the 70s.
Yeah, didn't he do the "My name is Bruce" and they call me Bruce, and they still call me Bruce? Yeah, yep. I really liked him. He was great.
Yeah. And then don't ever forget the Russian comedian Yakov Smirnoff.
How could I forget? In my country, comedy tells you. Yeah.
No. The best one was America, what a country. And in America, you have saying. Women are like buses. Another one comes by every 5 minutes. In my country, we have similar saying. Women are like buses.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Yakov Smirnoff in the Branson, Missouri circuit down Dolly Parton Way. That's real. That's where when I used to go to school at the University of Missouri, I would drive on the highway and see billboards. Yakov Smirnoff live in Branson. Check him out.
Yeah.
What a country.
Hey, everybody's got a shingle to put out somewhere, baby.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked Yakov Smirnoff. And there's that actor that shows up. He's Peter Parker's landlord in the Raimi Spider-Man movies. And at first I thought that was
Ilya Baskin, baby.
I thought it was Yakov Smirnoff at first. So. Richard, do you remember the Flying Karamazov brothers, the group of jugglers that used to do stuff? Oh man,
yeah, they were
great.
They had a live act, and then they would but they were always like on the Mike Douglas show or the Merv Griffin show.
That's incredible. Stuff. Real people. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad, Mike. I feel seen. I'm so glad, you and I are, have that same weird memory of all that kind of 1970s entertainment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we did an episode recently about the Star Wars holiday special. There's a new documentary about it. And just to talk to somebody who wasn't aware of variety shows in the 1970s, and just like you take someone who's never seen a variety show, you show them the Star Wars holiday special, they think it's the worst thing ever made. You show them other variety shows, and suddenly that holiday special ain't looking so bad.
I think the holiday special's fine. It does exactly what it sets out to do.
I'm not complaining about it whatsoever.
Whipster. Just saying. Harvey Korman's there, and he doesn't give a fuck.
No.
There were so many variety shows. Everybody in that Captain and Tennille, Sonny and Cher,
Shields and Yarnell. Yeah.
Shields and Yarnell.
Fucking mimes getting variety shows.
Richard Pryor had a primetime NBC variety show where he would come out and he would do comedy, and he was TV safe.
Yeah. Pink Lady and Jeff.
I think that was among the final ones.
Yes. Yeah.
And the one that really ran the longest and ended almost last was the Carol Burnett show.
Yeah. Yeah. Though hers, it didn't feel as much of a variety show as other ones. It felt more like sketch comedy show with some variety stuff interspersed. It was kind of really more of a precursor to like Saturday Night Live, I would say. But these, I mean, God bless him, Harvey Korman, being forced to crack up by Tim Conway, he still had his shit together way more than that fucker Jimmy Fallon and his unprofessional behavior on SNL. I mean, learn your lines and don't crack up. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Look out, Fallon.
I hate these new SNL comedians too, where they always are looking at cue cards, and I'm just like, I know you put together this whole show in a week. Why was it that people who are fucking choked up to the gills could remember their lines and you can't? Anyway.
Mad comedians, folks. Mike's mad.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. I want to thank Abby Stabby for our artwork, as well as the Great Octopus for our theme music. until we go, Chris, where are you working at these days, and what are you working on?
WeirdingWayMedia.com is where I'm working and twerking on all the things that I work on, including this show, CultureCast, and a whole host of other fun little audio ditties that you can find over at WeirdingWayMedia.com. What about you, Richard Hatem?
Well, I am on DC Titans, which is going to premiere the final 6 episodes. We now have a date, April 13th. Okay. So April 13th, we come back on the air, and for 6 weeks, we will air the final 6 episodes of the series. So you've got plenty of time to watch seasons 1, 2, and 3 and the first half of 4. I just saw the trailer for the second half of season 4. It's amazing. I'm like, whoa, our show looks good. So anyway, check out DC Titans on HBO Max.
What about you, Mike?
Well, I'm always working at the Weirding Way Media as well, especially on my show, The Projection Booth, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com or weirdingwaymedia.com, where you can find all kinds of shows that Chris and I and Richard work on, and Richard's wife. So big shout out to Susan Hatem.
Yeah, she's carrying the weight that apparently the rest of us aren't.
Yeah. What was that? Just got 50,000 downloads?
Something like that. Whoa.
I'm not sure we're at 50,000, but we're clawing.
Look at this wee business here.
Oh, yeah. I like this.
Wee.
I'm talking about the 3 of us.
Oh, yeah. No, I think we're closing in on 300 downloads with this show. So.
Yeah. 15, actually, I think is where we're at.
Speaking of, be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. And we'll be back next month with a show where we look at The Wind in the Willows, the Rankin and Bass version. And we might look at The Reluctant Dragon and Mr. Toad show. I'm not sure if that Mr. Toad is also from Wind in the Willows. So I'm going to have to do a little investigation, and that's another thing that Rankin and Bass worked on. Until then, be sure to rate and review the podcast wherever you get it. Tell your friends, tell your family, and please stay weird.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show, and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice, and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.